Good morning to Madam Hanum. Today we are from the Simplicity Group. We'll present our mini project titled Volunteer Traveling Allowance Calculator. So here are the group members. Macaurel is the leader, and the second member is me, Chaessler, and the third member is Zulaikha, and the last member is Lim. The first one is the problem statement. A company is having trouble with calculating the amount of allowance to be given to the volunteers based on their travel distances, as it is consuming too much time. The company has asked us to build a calculator and to record the output so they can track the amount of expenditure. The travel distance rates are as the following. For the first 500 km, the rate will be 50 cents per kilometer, and for the next 500 km, the rate will be 45 cents per kilometer, and for the next 700 km, the rate will be 40 cents per kilometer, and for the remaining kilometers, the rate will be 35 cents per kilometer. The next one is objectives. We have three objectives altogether. So the first one is to build a user-friendly program so that the user can easily adapt to the program. And the second one is to make sure user can manage their finance accordingly and to ensure that they don't spend more than necessary. And the last one is to build a forgiving program that will save the output into a TXT file or text file that can be opened by a notepad if accidents happen, such as accidental close or power outage.
Hello, my name is Macaurel, and I'll be continuing this part of the presentation, which is analysis. In analysis, what we want to do is we want to analyze the problem and create an IPO table to solve the problem. So starting from the left, we have input. And in this input section, we will ask the user for the number of groups, the number of volunteers in a group, distance traveled by volunteers, and a response to whether user wants to see a more personalized sheet or not. So in the process part of this problem is we will create a formula to calculate the allowance of a volunteer according to the distance traveled by the volunteer. And we also create a formula to total up the amount of allowance per group and also to total up the amount of allowance that will be spent overall. And in the output section, we have the total allowance, meaning that we will print out total allowance out, the allowance per group, and the allowance per volunteer if the user wanted to see a more personalized sheet of the expenditure. And finally we have text file. This is just to create a soft copy for the user so they can save it for themselves.
Hi everyone, my name is Zulaikha Hananie. So now I will be presenting about the flowchart of our group. So here we start with the main part first. Okay, as you can see here, it started here and then we will got the input or data from the user itself. As long as the value of x and y it must be greater than 0, then it will read out as group number and also volunteer number. So then here with the spelling grades, and it will go through to the yes or no part, and here as you can see there are some of looping part also has to get the response, and we will display everything and it will go through to the upstream and come to an end. Same goes if there are yes or no also. If yes, it will go through this part, and if it is no, it will directly go to this part also, and it come to an end. For the yes part, after all the here as we can see, there are simple of calculation of group expenditure and overall expenditure. All the data we got from the user will be used here then. So this part, as you can see, here is the loop where if the response itself it will display error and ask user to enter response again. If the data input we got is a failure, then So here, as you can see, it will come to an end. So next one is, here we got calculate allowance and also the display rates, as it is the functions of this flowchart. And here we got some of, it was started here, we will calculate the allowance, the input that we got, the data that we got from the user will be used, and finally we will get the total up of their allowance. So here, as you can see, it's just a basic one. For the display rates, it's all about the distance itself. And so for next one is functions also, the flowchart for display expenditure and also display personalized. For display expenditure here, we can see as it will create same once again here, the value of x that insert or input by the user must be greater than 0, so then it will go through to the yes or no path, and if yes, it will display right out here the expenditure, and then it will display overall expenditure, and it will ask user if they want to see a more detailed version of the sheet, and that's it. For the display personalized, so here we can see there are some looping parts. And okay, for I suppose if it is a no path, here as you can see, it will go through directly, flow to an end. So that's it, that's how it works. And so that's all from me. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Lim, and now I will present about the pseudocode of our project. First, we will come to the main code of our project. We will first get the input of group number and also volunteer number. And for x equal to 0, x smaller than group number, we will print out group x plus 1. And after that, we will get the group expenditure x and overall expenditure by using calculation. After that, we will call a function of display expenditure we will introduce later on. And then we will get the input data response and come to a switch for y we will call display personalized. For n we will break, and for default we will, if the response is not equal to y and not equal to n, we will print out wrong input and enter response, and then we will get the input data response again. And then we will open total allowance text as output stream, and for x equal to 0, x smaller than group number, we will call out group and x plus 1 as output stream. And then we'll print out the volunteer y plus 1 and also allowance rm and volunteer xy. And then the total group rm and also group expenditure will be printed out too. And then we'll print out total allowance is equal to rm and overall expenditure. And then we'll finally close the allowance file text. And then we will set the string overall and open the total allowance text at input stream. And then input overall into total allowance text. And then the main code is end. After that, we will come to pseudocode of our function. First, the calculate allowance. This function will calculate the total allowance by using the simple calculation. And this function is just display the rates that we'll calculate just now. And the display expenditure function will take the value of total group number from main program and create a loop to print out the total group expenditure. And then we will print out the overall expenditure that will be spent and ask user if they want to see more specified version of allowance sheet. And lastly, the function of display personalized. We will create a loop to print individual allowance of all volunteers according to their group and total allowance from each groups. And that's all for me. Thank you.
Okay, so now as for the demo, I will try to run the program and show you how to use it. So first you need to locate your program. As for me, the program is in this folder. So as mentioned before, this program is able to print out the output into a notepad named total allowance. So now I will try to run the program. So the inputs here are pretty straightforward, so I will just go through this really quickly. So as you can see, these are the outputs, and if you go back into the folder where the program is located, the total allowance notepad file is created, and as you can see, the outputs are copied into the notepad. So that's all. Thanks.